and we're going to see what happens. Hi, everyone. This is Nick Pollock from Roar Lions Roar, joined by Matt Filipovitz from Roar Lions Roar, and this is our third try, so hopefully this time we are actually live on YouTube. And it appears that we are. All right, I got it.
Are we?
We're good. Okay. Hi,
Good
everyone.
for us.
Yeah.
Oh, we are. Hey, score.
I'm not exactly sure what I necessarily. Hey, we're here. Sorry for the lateness. We are still getting the hang of this whole live stream thing. We'll hopefully get better at it. And actually, I will really quickly, Matt, how about you say a few words while I get this posted on all of our other social channels?
Hello. Welcome to the live stream ahead of Penn State's home opener against the Ohio Bobcats, who are 1-0. It's my NPR voice. I think they'll win by a lot. UCF lost last night. That was funny. That was a really weird game. And then Boise State beat New Mexico. So the Lobos bite the dust. So two undefeated teams have already fallen this weekend. I know Nick is going to get this up. Where are we going? On Twitter, Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, I was doing Facebook and Twitter.
LinkedIn?
I'm doing now, and then we'll be good.
But yeah, should be a fun one. Season opener is always a fun time of the year. It's my favorite game of the year, especially when I was working in a clothing store when I was a student there. I always loved the buzz surrounding this game. I would work the Friday morning shift. And those were always the people who come into like town early are always like the most serious tailgaters or like dads who are really excited to see their kids and just want to talk to a young person. So I always enjoyed that day. So,
And you worked at Lions Pride, right?
I did. I worked there for
Lions
about a
Pride,
year.
not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. They could be. Great people. I'll say that for free. Awesome people.
I feel like my problem with Lions Pride was always that whenever I went there, it was just like 15. Everything was like $15 more than I wanted it to be.
Then McClanahan's. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Were you? No, you weren't around for A's Pub at McClanahan's on Allen Street.
Mm-mm.
Oh, what a game changer! That opened my senior year. That was fantastic. Great place.
So kind of, I like that thread that you started there with just the things that happen around game day. This will be the first time since I was a freshman at Penn State in 2010 that I will not, aside from 2020, that I will not be at least one Penn State game. It's always a home game, but this will be the first time I will not make it back to Happy Valley for a game.
Oh, really?
And yeah, we were thinking about maybe doing it, but we're going to a wedding, Northwestern weekend now instead. So it's tough to justify the cross country flight twice within one 12-week span.
Right.
But yeah, I'm very jealous of everybody that is in Happy Valley today. And if you're in Happy Valley and you're watching this, stop, go tailgate, please. Like, we appreciate your viewership, but go enjoy your day. Yeah, I mean,
I haven't been back in a long time. This is probably the longest stretch I've gone in my lifetime of not being back. The last time I was up would have been Idaho 2019, that first weekend. I think that was the last time. That was also the first game I like didn't have a press pass for. And let me tell you, after you have access to like the private bathroom in the press box, the free food they get schlep out there in the sun in August or in the cold when it's like November, it feels like a big step down. So I was happy to be back tailgating in the tailgate lots, but I did miss all the free food I got when I was from the blog.
Those are good times. I don't think I ever did a press pass through blog. I did it through Black Shoe Diaries back when I was there for 2 different games. And it was fun. I just remember the one of them was the Army game in 2012, maybe it was, or 2013. Or actually, maybe it was after I'd graduated. Whenever it was.
Army was 2015.
Whenever that Army.
That was my freshman year. They hosted Army.
Okay, yeah. I was in it for that game when it was pouring, and I was very grateful for where I was at that point. Real quick, once again, if you're just tuning in, I'm Nick Pollock. He's Matt Filipovitz. This is our live stream for the Ohio game. Obviously, we don't know a ton about Ohio. We will talk about just some fun, general non-con stuff. But if you have any questions whatsoever, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. We are watching. We are happy to answer any questions or talk about literally anything you want. So I kind of want to just touch on not it's we talked about non-conference scheduling previously a couple different times actually. Um and I know that you are in favor of keeping these I, I guess we can call them regional matchups. I mean, it's
Cupcake
close
regional
enough.
games. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I don't think I've ever asked you kind of like, what is your ideal, like, let's ignore the very real possibility in the future that conference play continues to get expanded and non-con continues to get eaten to. But let's just say you're scheduling your typical set of 4 non-conference games. For
hmm
you, what does that look like?
Three. You mean for the Big
Or
Ten,
3,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. I want what they have right now. I like the I guess if I were shifted a little bit, I like the smaller FBS or slash FCS regional school. I want to keep playing those games. I don't know. I think those games are a lot of fun. I want the big name program. Like I want a fun crossover. Auburn's great. West Virginia's great for that. I'll even put, as long as it's a Power Five team and it's a home and home series, I'm happy with that. And the last one is I would really like a non-con group of 5 team from either the Sun Belt or the Mountain West, like somewhere new. Like I know Nevada is on the schedule. I know San Jose State was supposed to come to Happy Valley in 2020. Again, those games aren't going to be anything to write home about, but it's something new. I don't know. I think it's interesting to see new programs and interact with new fan bases. I think it's cool again as the sport becomes more national. I think it's cool for Penn State to branch out a little bit and extend their footprint. So I hope they play more Mountain West teams moving forward. Honest to God, like I would love to see, um, even like a Fresno State. I would love to see if we want to shift a little bit down to the Sun Belt. I think James Madison would be a fun one to have. That's kind of a regional one that I think would be interesting and in a recruiting hotbed that Penn State always likes to get their foot into.
Yeah.
UCF fall into the Power Five category as of next year, but you get what I'm saying. I want to play a regional MAC school or FCS team, the big name program, Power Five school, and then give me something a little bit out of off the beaten path for Penn State fans, like a Colorado State and Air Force, like that.
I think similarly, and if you have your own ideas about who Penn State should play in the non-con, please drop them in the comments. I agree, but I think I could do without the FCS game.
Okay.
Not that I honestly, I mean, my favorite part of the FCS or like bottom rung, bottom rung group of 5 team. My favorite thing about that is just the chance for those kids to have the opportunity to play in a big stadium like Beaver Stadium.
hmm
I think honestly that's my favorite part of it. But I really like the idea. One, yes, I 100% agree with getting more exposure to teams outside of the normal footprint. Like I would love to play. Like I would love to do what Wisconsin is doing today. Wisconsin's playing Wazoo, and we
Yep.
have Michigan State is not. It's not Washington. They play Washington next week.
Yep.
But I'd love to, and it doesn't necessarily have to be big names on the West Coast, but like you said, like just some Mountain West teams or, like Arizona State, like just something off the beaten path would be a lot of fun. But I would love to see some combination of like that type of thing where it's a team that you just really never see if you're a Penn State
hmm
fan. I would love to see I certainly don't want to enter in another like 6 year or 4 year agreement with Pitt where it's every year, but I do really like the idea of keeping one like regional big name in the non-con every year. So whether it's 1 year it's Pitt, 1 year it's West Virginia, 1 year it's Virginia Tech, 1 year it's Virginia, 1 year it's I mean even Syracuse I'm fine with tossing in there like on a
Yeah.
rotation as long as they're
I
not the
think I think the
marquee
Carrier
name.
Dome would be cool. I think the Carrier Dome in September would be a cool place to see a game. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I think if that's your big non-con game, that's a problem. But if they are just one of them, then it's cool. And then I do like keeping like a truly marquee matchup. Like, and in the grander football sense, are Auburn and say West Virginia like is one more marquee than the other? No, but one is closer, and one
Right.
is Auburn is a lot more for lack of a better term, exotic for Penn State fans. Like it's not a normal area of teams that we play. So yeah, I love the idea of playing like a big name SEC or big name. Well, there's not many big name ACC schools, but or even like Notre Dame, like stuff, something like that.
An ACC
That's
school.
kind of yeah, ACC school in everything but name.
I will say on the Pitt point, I think there's value in playing that in-state rivalry. Like I think it's
Sure,
Georgia Tech do it, and I know that Penn State doesn't want to do it every year, and I don't want to play that because not a lot to gain for Penn State, but a lot to lose. But what I'd like to see to keep that game and that rivalry healthy is I would like to see it played once every 4 years. So every
sure.
cycle of college students gets to have it at least once during their time. And that way you can just rotate back and forth if you play it, at Acrisure Stadium or at Heinz Field. Like I think that's a really great way to kind of satisfy everyone. Like this way, every single class that comes through the two most prestigious, maybe not Penn, the two most prestigious big athletic
Football
universities,
programs.
in the Commonwealth, they get to say they played each other during their time as a student, and it's realistic for a Penn State student to get to Acrisure for the game. It's realistic for a Pitt student to get to Happy Valley for the game. I think that would be a really healthy way to keep the rivalry alive and keep that hatred going. Like, because that Penn State Pitt game 2016 was like the first time, I think for you too, like in my Penn State fandom, like in my Penn
Mhm.
State consciousness, that they played each other. And I hate Pitt now. Like I hate the 2016 game because it happened. And I think that the longer the time goes in between those two games, I think the more fans who exist in that space like we did for the better part of a decade. So I would like to see it played once every 4 years. So that way every class that comes through each university gets to have that game.
I like that idea. I'm not the I'm certainly not the first one that's going to be lining up to play Pitt for the reasons you named. Like it's not a whole lot of upsides for Penn State really, but I like the idea of doing it once every 4 years. If for no other reason, then it can lead to a lot of great content. Where let's say Pat Narduzzi is on his radio show saying, "Oh well, if we had Penn State on the schedule last year instead of this year, then we'd be in great shape." Um, yeah, I like that idea. That's
Yeah.
I like just even if it's exactly that, like a rotation between like Pitt, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, Virginia. Like even
I
if
think
it's those four, like that's a
I think
cool
UNC,
UNC.
NC
That's not a
State,
good
like
one.
I think that'd be cool to get down to. I mean, yeah, as Penn State expands that recruiting footprint further south, I think those schools would be fun because I think
Hmm.
for the people who follow recruiting, there's already kind of that annoyance with each program. So I think that would be cool to kind of see that transition to an on field kind of rivalry, hopefully.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I'm looking at the map that's above my computer here and just trying to like pinpoint where what else would be close and interesting. I mean,
love to go to Louisville. I think
Louisville.
Louisville would be
Yeah,
so fun. If you're gonna
you
do it,
could. I
do
mean,
it this year or next year before they fire Satterfield and go get Brom.
you could make a Boston College argument too if you
Yeah,
really wanted to.
at
Yeah,
CBC. I'd go to Boston.
yeah.
That's the other
A
thing.
lot of
The
fun.
Big Ten is such a rural conference. Like I've been to a lot of Big Ten campuses. West Lafayette's middle of nowhere. Iowa City, middle of nowhere. Bloomington, middle of nowhere. Northwestern, not really, but it's a good 35-minute train ride north of the city of Chicago. Like it's a hassle to get to. I think playing in an area where there's more to do outside of just I'm going for this college football game would be fun. I know a lot of Penn State fans are clamoring for Colorado to go to Boulder.
Mm.
Arizona State, I know Craig wants to go to Tempe. Louisville, like I would love to see the city of Louisville and have a weekend there and have it be anchored around that Penn State game, but be able to go out and explore, what that city has. So I think things like that would be cool to see.
Yeah, I think of those ones you've named, I think Louisville would be my favorite one. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
Once again, Nick Pollock, Matt Filipovitz, Rural Lines Roar. If you have a question, leave it in the comments. If you have a comment, leave it in the comments. If you have anything to say, leave it in the comments. We'll respond to it. So
Craig
let's
sent us
talk.
something on Twitter.
Oh, did he
I don't
pull
know
it
if you
up?
saw that.
I didn't
I
see it.
got you. He asked, true freshman will make impact plays today.
Hmm. That's a really good question. All right, so let's just run down the list then. So we're assuming Drew Aller.
Who plays? Yeah, let's do this first.
Okay, so I'm gonna say Drew Aller, Let's go
Yep.
through the obvious one. Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen,
Yep.
Abdul Carter,
Yep.
um,
Zane Durant.
Zane Durant. I'm trying to think who
Deny
else is
Dennis
our
Sutton.
Janai Dennis Sutton. Are those all the? Those are all the ones that definitely played
Amari
last
Evans
week.
played.
Amari Evans. I think he's
Caden
fair
Saunders,
game.
I think, is going to get reps. KJ
Yep.
Winston, I think, will
Yep.
get reps. And I think we see Drew Shelton. I don't know how much right tackle he's played, but at this point, you got to find anything. So I think it's realistic we see double-digit true freshmen
I would say that's
get
a
on the
10.
field, for meaningful reps. In terms of who makes impact plays, I'll say 4 of them can do that. I think Aller gets his first tutty of his career today. I think Singleton and Fatman do it as well. Like, if you think back to the last time Penn State had a home opener with multiple true freshman backs, highly touted ones, it was Idaho, and Noah Cain and Journey Brown both found the end zone. I think Noah Cain scored twice. So there's precedent for that. Like, that could very realistically happen where both those guys check that box off the list. And then I'd be curious to see, if we can get Amari Evans with the ball in space. I want to see a tunnel screen to that guy and see what he can do, because, everything out of camp has been he is still learning receiver, but he has the type of speed you just can't teach. And if you're gonna showcase your speed, do it against a MAC team and probably look a lot faster. So I want to see that. I want to see what he looks like.
I think the only other one that comes to mind immediately could be one of the corners, like maybe Cam Miller.
Cam Miller. Yeah, he traveled last week, I know. Oh, and Vega Iwane, I'm sure we'll get some time here too, because he traveled with the team last week.
There's a name we need to practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's from your neck of the woods.
Yeah, he's from, oh boy, I forget what town he is. He's not from what I would call a football hotbed in the state of Washington.
Okay.
But hey, good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, like we've talked about on the podcast, I think Penn State's goal in this game is going to be
Depth.
one, crisp execution on offense.
You found that word today.
I did find that word today. I think that we will probably see them be maybe even overly aggressive on the defense.
Yep.
Try to force some things, try to force some
turnovers,
because they want to get those first stringers out of there as soon as possible. One, as we've talked about, they understand they need to build depth. They need to get those guys reps. And two, you want to get those guys out as soon as possible to make sure they're healthy. Big game next. Auburn. I know we're still not totally sure what Auburn is yet, but
we're not going to learn tonight.
You are traveling on the road
to an SEC school.
Yeah. On the road to an SEC school. That is a big game, no matter how you slice it. I mean, I guess if it was Vanderbilt, then maybe it wouldn't be as. But
hey, 2-0 Vandy.
James Franklin angle, so there's still be something. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. College football is all about good storylines, and that would be a fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the other thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to this reasonable to take any sort of legitimate takeaway.
Yeah, I think if dudes don't look lost, that's reasonable. That's all I'm looking for. Like I said on the podcast that we released yesterday, I believe that would have been. I lose track of the days when we record at this point. I want to see a 100-yard rusher. Don't get me wrong. I want to see a shutout. Don't get me wrong. But more than anything else, I just want to see young guys learning. I want to see these probably double-digit freshmen. Wait, if we set the over/under right now, if we loop back around to that, is the over/under true freshman to play today 10.5? I'm taking the over.
I take the over. Yeah.
All right. And both of us, I think, feel pretty confident about that. So when you have potentially 11, 12, true freshmen on the field on September 10th, you're going to see mistakes. Like, things are just going to be a little bit ugly. So while I agree that you want that crispness from your starters, what I'm more interested in is this youth movement that I think we're on the precipice of. So I want to see these young guys go out there, fly around, make plays, make mistakes, and then come back the next drive and learn from it. I'm pumped to see Abdul Carter. We only got one snap of him on defense, and he got called for a pretty soft targeting call, in my opinion. I mean, the play wasn't blown dead, and the ball was on the ground. So I want to see him come out, with his hair on fire. And then another guy I really want to see is Denai Dennis Sutton. I think that's a hard first game to go against a Purdue offense that just tried to dink and dunk you to death. Like that's a hard thing to try to adjust to as a true freshman. I think this can be, more of a traditional kind of offense that he can get to the quarterback and make a big splash play. So I'm excited about that.
If you're just tuning in, once again, I'm Nick Pollock. He's Matt Filipovitz here of Roar Lions Roar. Apologies for getting started a little bit later than we wanted to today. We are still working out the kinks of exactly how this whole live streaming works through our podcast host here. I think there was just a mistake with our stream key or whatever. So we did get started a little bit later. So apologies for that. We will try to make sure that we are more on time next week. If you have any questions or comments or anything to, question about our favorite foods, doesn't matter. Toss it in the chat. We'll be happy to answer and discuss it. Matt,
allergy, so don't ask about that. I'm not looking down. I'm monitoring the chat in our Twitter account. If you ask why I'm looking down, I'm making sure I got everything going.
Great, because if you notice me looking down, it's because I'm looking at the YouTube chat. So we got all bases covered. So I think as we start to creep up on when we're probably going to get out of here, I want to talk. I don't want to just do predictions for this game. I want to get specific with it. Like score prediction is not enough. I want to go deep here. Over under Sean Clifford rushing yards.
Ooh.
I'm going to set it at 15.5.
I'm going to go over, and this is a bit of a cop-out because we just got confirmation that Theo Johnson is not dressed for warm-ups. So there's one of his favorite targets, at least from last season. He didn't have in Purdue, out. And also Jerry Cross is in street clothes. This is according to Max Ralph of the Delhi Collegian. So right there, 2 tight end targets already off the board. So again, was Cross really going to play today anyway? Probably not. I didn't even think of him in that rundown we had of those true freshmen. But again, there's a young guy who won't be getting reps. And with Theo Johnson out, I think Cliff's going to have to there's one less target for him. So I think that'll mean he'll tuck in and run it a bit more.
MRob456 in the YouTube comments agrees with you as well. Says way over, actually. I am curious about both of your confidence, though.
Do you think it's one? I'm sorry, who was that? Was that MRob? MRob, do you think that's one run, or do you think it's like several runs that go for like 4 yards, or does he break a big one, which we've seen him do before? Be curious your thoughts. I can see him breaking a big one. I can see that probably happening.
Between his very specific comments after the last game saying how they told him they do not want him running as much this year. That combined
You've watched Sean Clifford for how many years? When has he ever really done something that we you know what I'm talking about?
But that combined with like I still don't even with that knowledge, like I still don't think he looks 100% moving right now. Like I don't think that he looked the same last week. And I think it most clearly showed up in his throws because I just don't think he stepped into as many throws as he, when he's had time. He has been pretty good at doing that. Rob says he didn't run much at Purdue, but I think he will put it on tape. That's a good point. I do like that point, that they want to make sure that they have footage just for Auburn to prepare, knowing that Sean Clifford can still run. That is a good point.
Not even that, but for self-scouting to see what he can do in space in the game. I think that's going to be equally as valuable as giving Auburn that extra thing to prepare for.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, of note, one more thing, and I want to make sure I give a shout out to Seth Engel, also the Daily Collegian. Keziah Izzard and Smith Vilbert are participating in warmups.
Oh, you said that. I heard that as Keziah Holmes when you said that first, and I was like, hold up.
Sorry, Keziah Izzard.
Okay, so that's good. If you missed it last week, both Keziah Izzard and Smith Vilbert were not. Did they even travel?
They did not travel. They're not.
They didn't even travel last week, so that's good to hear. We just got a question here from Dan Nelson. Will there finally be a 100-yard rusher today? I'm gonna say yes. I'm actually gonna say it's Katron Allen.
Okay.
I think there is at least somewhat realistic possibility, though, that both Allen and Singleton get it.
So I thought about this too. I think the only way Singleton gets it is if he rips off like an 80-yard run, which again, we've seen a highly touted true freshman do that in a home opener against an inferior foe. Like Devin Ford did that against Idaho, and he went That was probably the best run of his career. So
Yeah.
if it's going to happen, I think it's going to come from a big run by Singleton and then a couple good ones. And I think if Allen's going to do it, it's going to be 6 yards here, 5 yards there, 13 yards there. Like it's going to be a more traditional one. So Emrov's calling for 350 yards of rushing. I like it. Listen, but
I can't tell if he's calling for that or if he's saying that we are predicting that and telling us that we're insane.
Listen, could be. I will say, if that happens, if they run for 350, let's say they run for 350, Nick, do you think we can take anything away from them being able to do that against a MAC team that went 3-9? I think we can take something away only because it's a step in the right direction. But if that means they've turned the corner, I don't think I can make that claim just yet.
So I think there could be something to take away from it, but I think it depends on how it happens.
Okay.
Because if it's 350 yards of rushing, it's honestly just making me laugh just like saying those words out loud, knowing
What's the minimum that you would be impressed by?
200.
I was gonna say if they run for 200, I'm impressed. If they run for 175, I'm happy. If they run for 150, I'm more comfortable than I was when at time of recording this. Anything less than that, I'm freaking out a little bit.
Yeah, Dan saying anything over 100.
He's not wrong after what we've seen.
Yeah, so what I was saying, for me, I think it could be valuable as far as taking away long-term takeaways, but it depends on how it happens. Because if
I'd
it's
agree with that.
just if it's just a pitch to Nick Singleton and he just outruns the 11 dudes on the other side of the field, I'm not going to take away a lot from that because while he does have game-breaking speed, he's not going to be able to do that against most Power 5 defenses that Penn State's going to play, especially the better ones. If it is more, though, like Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton and Kayvon Lee having big holes to run through, and we see like guards pulling and getting to the second level, like if it's good execution in the run game and they put up big yards, I will be a little bit more optimistic. Not because I think executing against Ohio is the same as executing against, say, Auburn or Ohio State or Michigan, but if you can at least do it against Ohio, you get the mental model of what it should all look like. You get the understanding of what you need to do. And maybe it almost surely won't be the same against those better teams. You at least have the experience of having done it. And because last year we didn't even see that. We didn't see them execute in the run game at any point against any opponent. So if they can show strides in that area, then I'll feel pretty good about what they could do going forward. And I'll feel comfortable taking away from this game that they are improving in the run game.
Can I offer you another over-under
Of
for the
course.
offense on this one? 9.5 offensive linemen to play in this game.
Ooh, okay. All right, 9.5. So we have our normal starting 5.
Yep.
Toss Bryce Effner in there, obviously. That's 6. Toss Hunter Norzad in there. That's 7.
Yep.
I think we both feel pretty good about Shelton getting in there. That's 8.
Yep.
I think if those...
I think we see Dawkins.
So here's, I think if Shelton is in, then it's in a group that has at least 4 guys in that are not starters.
Oh, I disagree. I think if you're going to put Shelton in, you can't put him in there with inexperienced guys. He's still a true freshman in game 2. Like, as talented as we think he is, I think you got to put experience around him. But I think if Shelton's in, he's with at least 3 other starters. And again, I think the term starter is really going to vary in this game. I mean, this is coming from the guy who called for Drew Aller to get a series in the first quarter of this game, which I still think is going to happen. Like, I think they're going to mix and match a ton early on. I think they can afford to.
I agree with the sentiment about Shelton. It's really similar to baseball. Like, people are always asking, like, well, why are all these Dodgers rookies like so great right off the bat? Well, it's because, one, they're playing on the Dodgers. Like, these highly touted rookies get to come in and hit 7, 8, 9 in the lineup with a ridiculous amount of line of protection in front of them. Like, they're going to get fastballs to hit. So I do agree, like, you don't want to just toss your freshman or first time players in with a bunch of kids around them that equally don't know what they're doing. However, the thing that holds me up with Shelton, unless it's at right tackle for some reason, the thing that holds me up with Shelton getting too many or any left tackle reps with the other starters is that Olu Fashanu himself is still a new starter.
Right.
And I think they need to make sure that they still get him as many reps as they can. I think they feel pretty it's clear that they feel pretty comfortable with him, and he has in his one game of tape has performed well. Although he did perform well in the bowl game last year as well.
Right.
Um so that's the only thing that holds me up from saying that Shelton gets in there with the ones necessarily. However, when we have seen Penn State in blowout situations in the past, they have gone wholesale changes on the offensive line. The only holdup for me there is that they keep Effner and Norzad and Tengwall and maybe even Caden Wallace like shuffling in as part of that, just because those spots are unsettled, and that's a cheap, easy way to one continue to get them experience and two also have experience around the other guys. But I'm still I feel comfortable. Your number was 10 or 9?
9.5.
9.5. Yeah, I feel comfortable saying they get to 10, so I'll say over.
Okay.
Robert Parker in the comments, Clifford plays at most one quarter, if not, I said that's I was supposed to mean if not one series. One series is bold, sir. That is a take. Um, the only way that I could see that even being a remote possibility is if like Ohio starts with the ball, Joey Porter picks 6. Penn State gets the ball, or Ohio gets the ball again, like fumble, picked up, scored for a touchdown. And then Penn State gets an offensive drive. Clifford scores. So they're up 21-0. Technically only one series. And then he comes out.
Nah,
I
they're not. I think a more realistic thing is like a 4-1 split. Cliff gets 4, Aller gets 1. Like how they're doing 1-for-1-for-1 with the running
Sure.
backs. I wouldn't mind a 4-1 split. And then in the second half, if you're up more than 3 scores, hand it over to the kid. Let's see what Aller can do with multiple drives in a row. So I think that would be interesting to see.
Yes. Yeah. I think we're all in agreement that they will do what they can to get Aller legitimate snaps as soon as possible. Rob says, I think Kraft gaslit a fire. And I like that you said gaslit, not just lit, gaslit. Like that is severe.
Do you have a
Um,
gas stove, Nick, or do you have an electric one?
we have a gas stove.
Oh,
We
it's
used to have an
amazing, isn't
electric
it?
stove. Yeah.
Yeah, I
We
have a
we
gas
had an
stove in my
electric
place.
stove in
Oh,
our
it's
we
amazing.
had one in our apartment. Now we have a gas stove. Um, yeah, the pros and cons of each. I don't I don't think I dislike one over the other necessarily. Um, but based on Rob's comment here, and Dan says Clifford for all the first half, Aller for all the second half, that could very easily. That's probably the most likely scenario. Although I think in
Wow,
the
you think
past,
so?
I think that's the most realistic outcome. Although I will say in the past, I feel like oftentimes Franklin will do like the starter for the first half and then like the first drive of the second half, and then the backup comes
Hmm.
in and takes over from there. So that could be a possibility as well. But based on Rob's comment about Kraft, I actually want to talk about Pat Kraft just really briefly here before excuse me, before we make final predictions and get out of here. Um, we've heard a lot in the last, we've heard a lot since he was hired about how just more, I guess, more hands-on maybe is the best way to describe it, at least with the football program, which is the main thing that we've been able to see to this point, obviously.
Right.
That Kraft is just as an athletic director as compared to Sandy Barber. Um, and there was that quote about how he needs a get back coach when he's on the sideline for football games, which is
Yeah.
hilarious. Um, it I'm not sure that I would say Kraft has necessarily lit a fire under James Franklin himself. I think it's more that the athletic departments, and obviously his position in particular, it more feels that their like his passion and their passion is kind of ramping up to the level that James Franklin has been at for a while. Would you say that's fair?
I don't know if it's passion. I think for a long time, like the Penn State AD, how do I want to say this? The Penn State AD had to kind of take a step back and avoid the spotlight because of everything that happened a decade ago. Like
Sure.
that's an optics thing that had to happen. And I think Pat Kraft has come in at a time now where it's been a decade, and I think he brings in a new era and a new attitude. And I think if you think about where Pat Kraft has been, it's at universities where the athletic budget and the resources aren't trying to compete with the upper echelon of the sport, Temple, Boston College. So he's always had to be that loudest voice in the room to get people to pay attention to what he was chasing. And now I think that he's at a place like Penn State that has, Penn State's a program that can win a national title if things bounce the right way. I mean, no offense to BC, that's not what they are. That's not what Temple is. So I think now that he's in a place where he can scream as loud as he wants and realistically have a shot to be heard, I think that it's ignited a fire in Pat Kraft. I think he's already a really fiery guy, but I think Pat Kraft sees the Penn State job as what could be the peak of college athletic administration. It's 31, Division One varsity sports. There's a lot for him to make a name for himself in. So that's why I think him and Franklin, because Franklin's a fiery guy too, are just a perfect pairing. And I think they both bring a lot of passion and really want nothing but the best for the program.
Yeah, totally agree. The last thing before we make predictions, Rob commented, said, not going to try to spell his name, but Aller is the OC's guy. Obviously referring to Mike Yurcich. And for the record,
right. And also for Robert, you're right. Kraft did own the Big Ten Media Days, man. He killed it at that event. I've never seen an AD, at least in the Penn State sphere, I think, steal the show more than he did. Maybe that's also because we rarely heard the Penn State AD speak for a while, but I was really impressed with what he said at those events.
Yeah, but even compare him to Gene Smith. Like Gene Smith is the athletic director of one of the most decorated athletic departments in the country. And he's just so boring and so wrong so often.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, he definitely stole the show. Robert, for the record, Yurcich, Yurcich. But yes, he is absolutely, Mike Yurcich and Drew Aller are very much connected at the hip. For better or for worse. For right now, definitely seems to be for better. But we've talked about how on the last podcast, or not the last one, but the one previous to the last one, we talked about possible week one overreactions. And one of the points that I brought up was Mike Yurcich is coaching for his job this season. And
which he's not.
He's not. On the field play aside, the biggest boon that he has, the biggest thing in his corner is Drew Aller. Because you're right. He is 100. Drew Aller is 100% Mike Yurcich's guy. They offered him when he was a 3-star kid just starting to make his name. He stuck through. He stuck with Penn State the entire time through as he was blowing up to just ridiculous heights. I don't remember where he ended up. I think he's still ended up as the number 1 quarterback in the class. I know on at least one publication, I think he was like number 3 overall. Like he rose a ridiculous amount, stuck with Penn State all the way, and that was, I'd say, at least 70% of that credit should go to Mike Yurcich and what he sold him on and what he got him to believe that he saw for his future.
A quick update: Smith Vilbert and Keziah Izzard are not in pads, so I may have misread that prior tweet. I apologize. So it looks like once again, no Smith Vilbert, no Keziah Izzard. So Zane Durant denied Dennis Sutton. You're up.
And the age of Hakeem Beamon continues. Just because we've said Hakeem Beamon, Daquan Hardy. Yeah, so you're very much correct that Aller and Yurcich are a package deal right now. And it is, as we talk about how Penn State will try to work Aller into the game, that is very much a relative factor because Yurcich, I think Yurcich likes Clifford. Their relationship seems strong. And I think that Yurcich does appreciate having somebody as experienced as Sean Clifford is. Obviously, we know Sean Clifford's not perfect. We know he has flaws, and some of those flaws are very apparent at very poorly timed times. But there's something to be said for having a guy that's been around a program for 6 years and been around college football for 6 years. You just know things that other kids don't. Like Sean Clifford knows things and has experience and is 100% better at certain things right now than Drew Aller is. As much as some people might not like to hear that, he is 100% better at some things than Drew Aller is.
As he should be in year 6, as he should.
Yurcich isn't a fool. Like, he knows that. He understands that his best chance to win right now, I think, is still Sean Clifford. But that doesn't mean that he is not going to push as hard and as often as he can to get his guy, Drew Aller, on the field in a, as competitive and important a capacity as he can. Rob says, I think Clifford knows the kid is just better. So listen, it's not
I'm sure you can see it. I mean,
yeah,
arm talent, yes. I'm sure. I mean, anybody can figure that out. Arm talent,
it
Aller's a
is
better arm talent.
it is not a secret that Drew Aller is one, probably the more mobile of the two right now, because I think Clifford is hobbled. One clearly has the better arm because arm talent is something you just can't teach. Accuracy, we have a very small sample size of Drew Aller to go off of, so maybe
That ball to
it
Tyler
was
Warren, though.
the ball to Tyler Warren was great,
Something
but the
special,
other,
man.
but the last pass he threw was not great. So there's there's give and there's take there. I don't think that Sean Clifford. I think like Clifford knows this is his last year of college football, and I
Are we
think
sure?
he's also pretty aware that he is probably not an NFL guy. Like, excuse me. He's been around the program long, and if he was an NFL guy, he'd be gone by now. Like, it's not the kind of thing that's going to change from year 4 to year 6, especially because in the NFL, the older you are, the less appealing you are going to be to most teams, unless you're the Seattle Seahawks, who love to draft like 25-year-old defensive linemen.
Or the Browns, the one time they drafted was with Whedon. Yeah, Whedon.
Yeah. 85-year-old Brandon Whedon. I think Clifford is aware that this is his last season. He's gone and started his business at this point. Like, he's preparing himself for his life after football. And I don't think that he's going to be the type that is going to like be nasty in a way to I can't think, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but like, I don't think he's going to fight to like keep himself on the field ahead of Drew Aller any more than a normal starter would. Like, if you're a starting quarterback, you don't want to lose your job. But I think if it's a situation where he really is struggling and Aller takes over, like, I don't see him like being bitter and like back talking to the media and stuff like that. Like, I think he's aware of the situation. I think everybody is well aware that Drew Aller clearly is the future of the program.
Right.
And I think everyone's on board with that. Let's take one last comment here, then we'll final predictions. Dan, always better to stay on the side of caution with true freshman example, Rob Bolden. Yes. However, Drew Aller is not Rob Bolden. I loved Rob Bolden. I was just saying, I need to spruce up my background here for podcasts, for our video. And I have a large signed Rob Bolden picture that I need to put up back there.
Matt McGloin. I don't know where it is, though.
There you go.
No
so
idea. It's somewhere tucked away. Probably.
So when I was holding up a 1 in the stadium, you were holding up an 11 at home. So yes, obviously with a freshman, you need to have some healthy skepticism, but it's also fair to remember that this is not a 1-to-1 comparison. Like, Drew Aller is a much, much, much more exciting and electric prospect than Rob Bolden ever was. And that's no disrespect to Rob Bolden. He was a high-ish touted guy, mostly made by Allen Robinson in high school, but that's fine. Real quick, if Matt drops out on your screens watching at home, because he just dropped out on mine, I think we can still hear him, but maybe not. Matt, can you hear me? Bummer. We might have lost Matt for the end of this. Let me shoot him a message real quick to leave and rejoin. Okay, so he's just getting out of here. So I'll tidy this up here and wrap this up with just our final predictions then. So Matt and I both did the preview podcast yesterday for Aurora Lions Roar. If you're not following the podcast, subscribe to the podcast. Please make sure you do so. We both think this is going to be a blowout for Penn State. I said that I think it could end up being something like 42 to 10, something like that. I think Matt went even higher. He might have been like 48 or 50 to 10 or 14, something like that. Bottom line, I think we both feel pretty comfortable in that Penn State's going to roll in this game. And I think we are both on the side that they will do everything that they can to roll early so they can get those backups in the game as soon as possible for all the reasons we've discussed. Um, yeah, I think it's going to be a fairly stress-free afternoon in Happy Valley, and I am very jealous of everyone that is getting to be there right now, but also greatly appreciate all of you for tuning in to watch this today. Once again, apologies for getting started a little late. I know we had said we had said previously that we'd be starting at, oh boy, I live on the West Coast, so let me do my time math here. I know previously we had been said that we would have started at 10:30 Eastern time and gone to 11:30. So apologies, we got started a little late, just some issues with our live stream feed and all that. But we will have those figured out for next week. So next week we can start on time. Just for future reference, we aim to end these about half an hour before game time, and then we'll run for an hour ahead of that. So we'll get on and start the live stream about an hour and a half before the game actually starts. And as always, huge thanks to everyone in the chat for participating, chiming in. It was a lot of fun. Rob Parker, Dan Nelson. Really appreciate you guys chiming in and talking with us. Makes it a lot more fun if we have interaction from you all, because we don't know everything, and it really helps to kind of spurn our minds with some questions that you guys bring up. So much appreciated, as well as your thoughts. If you enjoyed this, you would probably also enjoy after the game when we do a Twitter Spaces, which, if you haven't spent much time on Twitter, is basically just a live open chat. You can request to talk and we can give you access to talk, so you can ask questions and we can have back and forth, talk with everyone, all that good stuff. So make sure you're following at RLR blog on Twitter. And once the game ends, within 5-ish minutes after the final whistle blows, we will get that started and we can talk about all the hopefully great things that we saw from the freshmen that got to play almost the entirety of the second half today. So once again, I'm Nick Pollock, myself and my co-host Matt Filipovitz, both predicting big Penn State wins today. Should be a fun, and from what I saw, I believe it's supposed to be a beautiful day in Happy Valley too. So that's very awesome. Love the home opener always. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Glad that you found the page. Subscribe to the podcast as well. Sometimes it can be easier to listen on there. Though we do. Oh, sorry. Matt just messaged me. His official prediction is 56-10 for Penn State. So even a little more brash than I thought it was. But yeah, once again, thanks to everybody for listening. Much appreciated. Subscribe and follow the channel. Click alerts so you can see when we go live, see when we post new videos, all that good stuff. And we're trying to, continually expand what we do with our videos. We post all of our podcasts, but also trying to continue to expand the other content we do as well. I know last week I did the 3 things I liked, 3 things I didn't like the day after. So look for that tomorrow as well on the YouTube page. Yeah, follow the podcast, check out Home Field Apparel, use the code ROARLIONS, roar at checkout, all one word, all caps, for 15% off of your first order. They have great stuff. I'm wearing one right now, the Nittany Lion wrestling shirt, one of my new favorite shirts by far. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it fits great. But yeah, for myself, Nick Pollock, for my co-host who has now left us, Matt Filipovitz, much appreciated. Thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Go State.